Welcome to First Presbyterian in Alvin. It's second week now of isolation, and I know we're all having a lot of fun. I've seen a lot of jokes about this, and that was this one man being interviewed, and the person said, okay, you have two choices now in your confinement. There's plan A, where you stay with your family and kids, and there's plan B, and he said, plan B, without ever knowing what it was. Well, you gotta laugh. We are in a time of crisis, things we've never had to face before, and hopefully we'll learn something from all this. We'll learn who we are as an individual. We'll learn who we are as a family. We'll learn who we are as a nation. And I would like to think that there's good coming from this, because the scriptures teach us that God is not the source of evil and bad things, but that God with us makes some good things happen from it. So our hope is that we'll learn something about who we are and something about the God that we worship. So this morning we're going to look at the fourth word of the cross, which is a very powerful statement. It comes from Psalm 22. And if you were here for Ash Wednesday, that was the text that I used. And let me read to you then the text for this morning, Matthew 27, verses 45 through 47. From noon on, darkness came over the whole land until 3 in the afternoon. At about 3 o'clock, Jesus cried with a loud voice, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani. That is, my God, why have you forsaken me? When some of the bystanders heard, they said, this man is calling for Elijah. And so there's a part of this that really fits today. The psalmist in Psalm 22 was in a bad way. He felt like everybody was coming down on him. He didn't have any friends. Life was really bad for him. And things weren't going the way that he had hoped that they would go. And he wondered, you know, God, why have you left me? Why have you abandoned me? Because really the word forsake in Aramaic really means abandoned, just left. God just left Jesus on the cross, or God just left the psalmist. And he talks about how things in the world are not good, you know, and he's asking, God, are you around? Where are you? What are you doing? Why am I going through all this suffering? And so we see Jesus quoting Psalm 22, a part of that. And we realize that we go through those same kind of struggles and the same kind of pain, the same feeling of maybe being alone and abandoned. To get to the scriptures, we know that as the early church was developing, there was a lot of different theologies about who Jesus was. And one of the theologies was called Docetism. The Docetists believed that Jesus was really God and wasn't at all human. Other side said Jesus was fully human. Maybe he wasn't God. And then you had all these other things going on. The question is, did Jesus really and truly suffer on the cross? Did he suffer as a human being, or was he just pretending to suffer? And so we deal with the reality of the essence of who Jesus really is. And I would hope that this text would tell us very clearly that Jesus was fully human. He wasn't pretending to suffer. He wasn't pretending to feel abandoned. But as a human, he felt the same sort of things that we feel at certain times of our lives. Forsaken by God, by his Father. Actually, we know that the word means to be just abandoned, alone. Nobody there. Nobody there. I truly believe Jesus was fully human when he suffered on the cross. He wasn't pretending to do this. He was feeling that pain. Just a few women and John were present. You had the soldiers gambling to see who got his clothes. You had people jeering him and teasing him and taunting him and going through all the horrors of dying by the people that he came to love, the people that he came to save and redeem. And so he cries out, as we have cried out, I suspect sometimes in our lives, feeling just abandoned, feeling so alone. The cry is probably one of the most painful cries we can cry in troubled times, feeling not only abandoned, but, God, where are you? And we have to ask sometimes, God, where are you? When tragedies happen, is God really there? As Jesus hung on the cross, he endured the mockery, the abandonment of his disciples, the hellish rejection of the crowd, crucified between two thieves. And so think about this. Jesus spent his entire life emptying his life toward others, proclaiming God's kingdom, healing, teaching, receiving, exercising, teaching, loving grace and forgiveness, restoring relationships. He gave his life for everybody else. And then when he's dying, he feels totally alone. He felt alone, he felt isolated, the feelings of aloneness and isolation that a lot of people probably feel when they have to go through divorce. Feeling abandoned when you deaden ourselves on drugs and alcohol. Maybe feeling abandoned when women or children are battered and abused. Is there anybody to help? People let go from their jobs. There's so many people today out of work. No income's coming in. How do you buy food? How do you buy medicine for your family? I mean, these are times of panic and feeling like, where's the help? Those that suffer from depression and anxiety, as we're feeling today, chronic physical disabilities, struggling with depression, anxiety, veterans returning from the war, Middle East, living on the street, there's no jobs, and they're being treated very badly, the homeless. So we have a lot of folks, I suspect, feeling abandoned by the country, by friends, by family, by whatever. Today we probably have a lot of questions as to where God might be. Lord, are you there? Where are you on these troubled times? I think sometimes Europe turning away from you, turning away from God. Churches are empty. You go through World War I, you go through World War II, and you see the horrors of what happened, and asking God, where are you? How can you let things like this happen? And so maybe that's why Europe is more secular now and not so godly as it used to be. It's just an idea. To a nation constantly busy, we're told to shut down, quit, stop everything in life. And as people that are on the go, this is very, very hard for us to do. And I think sometimes it's pushing us and stressing us to the point that we're not sure how to deal with what we have to deal with because we've never had to deal with it this way. The paper warns us that there's probably going to be an increase in divorces. There's possible more abuse, more alcohol and drug consumption. There's loss of income, more devastating to those that live paycheck to paycheck. What am I going to do? The news the other night, I don't watch a lot of the news, but I watch it every now and then. It said there's a huge run on guns. Everybody's buying guns to protect themselves when people come down the street wanting food, breaking into the house. I mean, all this panic, things that we just haven't experienced before, and we're not sure how to do it. No one wants to walk through the valley of the shadow of death. But there are two things that need to be said. One, you do walk through it. We get through this. We will get through this. There's no doubt in my mind. We will prevail. And secondly, it's really not the valley of the shadow of death. The translation from the Hebrew, we walk through the valley of dark things. Dark things. And we're going through a very dark time right now. A very dark time. And we're all struggling and figuring out what we can do and how do we get along and just all the things that we've never had to face. So is there any good news in this? Well, I believe there's a lot of good news. And let me share with you some things in closing that I think might help us.